As she sat across the room, watching her husband, the pastor, and the church elders, her heart was racing fast. Just how was she going to break the news to her husband that she was pregnant with another man's child while he toiled away in the Middle East? This is a tale of a woman, her 3 children, and 3 baby daddies, and the betrayal from all these 3 men. Buckle up and I'll tell you this intriguing story. My name is Yvonne Kawira. Cecilia Njoroge had just wedded the love of her life in a colorful wedding. This was everything she ever dreamed of. She and her husband had a whole life ahead of them. At the time of the wedding, the man did not have any job or money.
We got engaged in October, and in 2010, May the 15th, we wedded.
Then one day, a job offer came in and the man was elated. He was required to travel to Dubai. At this point, Cecilia says that she felt something was off in this marriage.
He did not want us to discuss anything to do with the work or what we would do as a family once he traveled there. I insisted to take him to the airport, though he had refused. He brought in his friend and they dilly-dallied at the airport. He had planned with his friend to fool me, and once he leaves the airport, he would check in and not come back again. So when I finally called him after waiting for so long, he questioned what I was still doing at the airport and demanded that I return home immediately.
Although this joy was soon to be cut short, but she and her husband were beginning to see cracks in their marriage. But there was another problem. The child was constantly sick and needed constant medical attention. Her husband was not supporting her at this point.
We discovered that the baby had a problem at 5 months. He had a condition called hydrocephalus. He also needed constant care and several visits to the hospital. He underwent a surgery, and this slowed his growth and development. When he landed in Dubai, he began to tell me that he did not have money. So I felt alone. From the first month, he sent me nothing. Still the second month, nothing. But on the third month, he sent me 3,000 shillings.
And one day, as she was looking for better treatment for her child, she met a man. Turns out this was a doctor. You know those doctors that do house calls? Yes. And this is exactly what she needed for her child. But there was another problem. She could not afford his service.
He saw how confused I was, and he approached me and said hello. We spoke, and because I was so stressed, I decided to open up to him. Even if he would not give me anything, he would at least encourage me in my situation. So I told him everything, including my child's situation. He told me that he was a doctor. He listened to me and asked to come see the baby and help him with the therapy.
At first, he offered to give her free sessions for her child, and soon he was so fond of the child, so much so that he would constantly call to check on the baby.
He began to get more interested in me. I think he saw a lonely young girl who was stressed. Of course, I accepted his proposition as I was feeling quite lonely at the moment.
One day, after one of the sessions, the doctor spent the night. Then this became a norm. He even began taking care of some of the house expenses. This now became a full-blown relationship.
I needed the love and support from someone, and this situation really gave me what I needed.
Days went by, months went by, and the relationship blossomed. But then something else happened. Cecilia discovers she's pregnant again. This is about a year and a few months after her husband moved to Dubai. At this point, the marriage was hanging by a thread. She informed her boyfriend, the doctor, about the pregnancy.
He then disappeared when I told him that I was pregnant. But then he advised me to go to a certain hospital, and it is at that point that I discovered that he had planned to terminate this pregnancy with his other colleagues. I was even admitted at the hospital. But after the process failed, I decided to ignore him and focus on growing on my baby.
Having failed at the attempts, she decided to keep this child as well and cut ties with this boyfriend. But then something else was cooking. Cecilia's husband has just announced that she's coming back home from Dubai.
At this point, the pregnancy was about 6 months, heading to 7 months. I went and told the pastor what had happened. I explained everything. I was afraid that he would react so badly after finding out that I was pregnant. So I needed the pastor to tell him so that he could help neutralize the situation.
Of course, she needed the help of the pastor, the church elders, and someone else to help explain the situation to her husband.
I wanted to see his reaction. I still believed he would forgive me and we would continue with our lives. We went into the pastor's office. I was asked to speak to him, and this is what I said. Baba Ndongo, I am pregnant with another man's child, and I am sorry. His reaction was bad and big. He tore his shirt, and all the buttons came off, and he was left in a vest. The pastor then decided that he should not come home with me. He then decided that he stays with the pastor and later on we would talk and solve everything. But that never happened.
And of course, this was the end of their married life because the man did not return right after he packed his clothes and left her house. Cecilia decided to go ahead and raise these 2 kids alone.
He then came to serve me divorce papers years later because he had met someone else and wanted to get married again.
But as time went on, she decided to pursue both dads to help her raise the 2 kids.
It had been 5 months, yet I had not paid my rent. I knew I needed help from a local authority to help me draft letters to pursue the kids' fathers to help me raise these babies.
She sought the help of a chief who would help her draft the letters. But yet again, she did not have enough money to facilitate this process. So one day, the chief visited her in her house and they drafted the letter, all right?
When it was time to leave, he grabbed me and threw me on the couch. I did not resist because he had offered to help me for free.
Guess what? Cecilia once again gets pregnant from this encounter with the chief. Crazy, right? She has jumped from a frying pan into a fire. And of course, she has kept this baby too.
First, I would like to get justice for my children from these 2 fathers. The 2 men are still alive. I also want to get sponsorship to take my first child to a special school where I can get to see him freely. It was not my fault to go through all this. I wish things were different. My kids keep asking for their father and it breaks my heart.
So now Cecilia has 3 children, all by different daddies, and none of them support her. What would you do if you were in her shoes? Well, her actual first husband sadly passed away after a short illness, but the 2 dads are yet to be part of their children's lives. And that, my friends, is the story of Cecilia Njoroge. My name is Yvonne Kawera.